You know, for a mechanical engineer, I do a lot of soldering. Now, my friends in other parts of the world might call it soldering, but whatever the heck you call it, we need to use these tools to heat up two wires, or a wire and a printed circuit board, and we need to get it to the point where it's hot enough to melt a specific type of metal known as solder. And we need to get that hot enough so that it wicks into the wires, and then once it cools, the wires are bonded together in such a way that they'll carry a current or a voltage or a signal. So that is the process of soldering. Now, in any process, we've got the tools for the job. Now, these are what we call soldering irons, or soldering pencils, or soldering guns, whatever you might call it. Now, I've used different ones in the past for different applications. Sometimes I've only been able to afford the El Cheapos, and sometimes I've been fortunate enough to where in business I needed to get a complete monster, which is so overkill, but it's really cool. So today I wanted to do a little bit of a test, or just take a look, a little bit of an analysis at 4 different kind of types of soldering guns which fit different budgets and have different features. So which one's the best? We will answer that one today in the
Soldering Iron Showdown.
So here I've got 4 different soldering irons which basically range from different prices and features, all the way from about $10 all the way to over $1,000 for a soldering iron setup. So today we're going to take a look, like I said, features, how long it takes for it to heat up, which one is best for you basically. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Let's start from the most economic and budget-friendly soldering iron. The first one up is our most budget-friendly option that I was able to find. So this is by LDK. It didn't even have a model number. I don't know what to call it other than the LDK. This one's just under $10 on Amazon. It's quite nice. I used it a little bit. It does the job. I probably wouldn't use this for anything too crazy, too intense. It's only 60 watts, but for only under $10, you can't beat it. It really does okay. It comes with the kit itself comes with some solder, a nice little stand, and even some replaceable tips with some pretty big tips here. So I think this should probably do okay. If I had to guess, this is going to be best for if you're just starting. I wouldn't even recommend this, but just if you need something for an emergency, everything else breaks and you got one left, this thing is actually pretty good. So for under $10, like, the value is quite impressive. So this is the LDK, model number unknown. Next up, we have the Weller WX2. And this guy right here, I can personally attest to. I had one of these for probably maybe 4 years, 3 to 4 years, and this thing has soldered many excellent machines of mine in the past. So I can personally attest to this one. It's really nice. It's under $40. I think I bought this for like $33. This one's special. I don't mind having a backup of these around because I know this thing will get the job done. So the cool thing is when you choose it, when you choose which one you want, they offer it in either a 40-watt pencil or an 80-watt pencil. So this is a base station here with a variable control knob just to adjust the temperature. As you know, the temperatures are accurate to within 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Like, that's all they give you. They don't give you what temperature this correlates to. It just kind of gives you like a power setting, if you will. Maximum temperature, they say, is up to around 900 degrees Fahrenheit. And so with this one, I just chose the 40-watt. That's what I always had. I always had the 40-watt pencil, and it really did just fine. The tips are indeed replaceable. It did not come with any replaceable tips. Like, this is all that it came with. It did not come with solder or anything, but it does come with this nice sponge that you can use to wipe off the solder from the tip. I do prefer the coiled mesh a little bit better. We'll get into those in the future ones for removing solder from the tip, but this really does quite well. Nothing fancy, under $40. If you're gonna begin, I think this is the best bang for your buck. This really does work. I can't say it enough. This has served me extremely well in the past. So the Weller WX2 for under $40, this one gets my vote for beginning, for sure. So the next one up is one that I haven't really used at all personally, but I have seen this all throughout internet forums, Reddit, and plenty of YouTube videos, lots of reviews out there for this one. So I felt compelled to grab one and try it for myself. This is by a company called Hakko, and this is the FX888D. This is a digital soldering iron. This is the next level up. This one's right around $100. I think this one's about $105 from Amazon. And I'm really impressed with this one. This is super cool. So this one actually has a little bit of a base station. So it's got this base station here. It's digital. You can plug it in. You can change the temperature. So that's really nice. It's a digital temperature selection versus the Weller WX2 where that had just an analog control knob. This is digital. So you can digitally set your temperature, which is really great. It also, like the cheaper Weller one, has a removable pencil to where if this ever breaks or something, then you can just insert a new pencil and you're not replacing the entire soldering iron itself every time. So this one does have removable tips. It only came with this one tip, but after looking online, they offer plenty of different tip styles and replacements and such. The little holster caddy I really like because they offer both the mesh right here, the kind of the metal coil, I think they call it, like a metal coil, to wipe the solder from your tip. It gets it really clean. And then you can also take some water, put it on the sponge, and get it extra clean there. So this thing does really well. I'm quite impressed with it. I think that this one's going to be best for you kind of prosumers out there, whether you're doing FPV, helis, drones, RC cars, whatever it might be, hobby kind of projects. I think that this is really good if you don't want to mess around. If you want to get that next step up after using this for a little bit, I really do like this. So this is the Hakko FX888D. And last but not least, my pride and joy, this is the Weller WX2. This thing is a monster. I purchased this soldering station, I guess we could call it, about a year ago, and I've been using it basically every day for my drone business where we do lots of soldering, both large, maybe like 8 to 10 gauge wire, 8 to 10 AWG wire, all the way down to smaller, maybe 26 gauge wire. And this thing handles it all. This thing is a beast. So coming in at a price of around $900, depending on where you shop, this comes with two of the pencils, two of the WXP120, so 120 watt pencils, and it comes with two of them. And they both plug into the station, and they can be powered at the same time. So if you've got maybe two techs working on different projects, it's really nice because they can both be powered on at the same time. Not only that, but it's a digital control station, and it shows you the temperatures of both the left pencil and the right pencil at the same time. And you can adjust it, variable. It's very simple to set up. You can even set up two temperatures on like two temperature presets, if you will. So you could have a lower temperature and a higher temperature separately for each pencil, which is really nice. Now, using it in the field, to be honest, one of our WXP120s just died. I'd say about 9 months in. So I'm kind of in the process of warranting that right now. That's the one thing I'm not super happy about. But all in all, this thing has been doing very well, very reliable. I cannot underestimate how much we beat this thing up. I mean, this is turned on kind of all day, every day. These have been really working hard. So the other cool part is that because these are replaceable, I have a separate pencil here. This one can also accept up to a 200 watts. So this is the WXP200. I mean, look at that thing. That tip is huge. It's like the size of my pinky. So this pencil right here is amazing for when we're soldering these really high power distribution boards, like high current power distribution boards on our larger drones. This thing doesn't mess around. This is great. So how I have it set up for my particular use case is I have the 120 watt pencil set up with the 200 watt. And then it can't run both of them simultaneously, but if I basically just touch solder to either one of them, it'll put one to sleep and fire the other one up in a matter of no time. So that's been really nice if I'm kind of in a project where I have to solder a heavy gauge wire and then right back to back maybe solder a lighter gauge wire, a Dean's connector, a XT60, XT90, EC5, whatever it might be. So this is really great for me to be able to jump back and forth. This one can get to a maximum temperature of just under 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and they even give it a 4 degrees stability, so 4 degrees Fahrenheit stability, so that if it's holding a temperature of 750, they're saying plus or minus 4 degrees. So that's pretty impressive. I have seen this thing do some incredible things. The base station also comes with the metal cleaning wire on both of these, and it's quite nice. So I really can't say enough good things about this. Now, my favorite feature with this is the fact that, I use it a lot. And it's the only one of these out of all the soldering stations that we're looking at that have a auto shut-off feature, so a safety feature. To where with this one, when it detects, I believe it's maybe 5 to 10 minutes of inactivity, it'll actually shut the gun down. And that is amazing because, if I'm soldering and then I get a phone call, sometimes I'll forget that this thing was turned on. So it does have a auto shut off feature, which is great. None of the others have that. So although this is insanely expensive, and I would say is only good for professional use, like don't get this if you're a hobbyist, this is so overkill. But because of all those features, this is why I chose this one. Now there's many other Weller series in between the WLC100 and the WX2 that I simply didn't cover, but this is kind of like the king of the hill, so I just figured you might want to see it. They do offer some other plugins into the base station, like a heat gun and some other pencils and such, but this is my particular setup for my particular use. Just as important as it is for a soldering iron to be affordable, and most importantly, just hold up to the job, in my experience, it's really great to have a soldering iron that heats up quickly. So like whether you're using this at a shoot, like on a job site, out in the real world where the time for you to fire this thing up and have something repaired is essential, or you're just using it at home and you plug it in and you want to get going. So my experience, it's great to have a balance of a soldering iron that does its thing and you can plug it in and just get to work. So I will say that I have seen some major productions, like movie productions in particular, be saved due to the fact of the team had a soldering iron that heated up quickly and basically just got right to it. Problem was fixed and we're moving on. So we did a little test here. Did a little test where it's basically how long does the soldering iron take to get to the point where it can melt solder from the time that it's been plugged in. And the results are really interesting. So let's plug them in all at the same time and see which one heats up the fastest. All right, so let's do this little test. So we're gonna plug them in, 3, 2, 1, start the timer. Which one will come first? So as they're all heating up here, and there you have it, the Weller WX2 coming in at a blistering 10 seconds. So only 10 seconds for this soldering iron to heat up to the point where it can melt solder. And shortly thereafter, we have the Hakko FX888D. And actually not far behind it is the LDK, the cheap one, the cheapo, the $10 version. Heats up to the point where it can melt solder in just about 30 seconds. So that's really incredible. So far, 3 of the 4 have heated up in under 30 seconds to the point at which it can melt solder. And our good friend, the Weller WLC100, we're still waiting here. And finally, the Weller WLC100 heats up to the point where it can melt solder at right around 80 seconds. So that little test was fun to see. I really couldn't believe the performance of the El Cheapo. It did great. So the Weller WX2, kind of no surprise there that thing's just blistering fast. I mean, more than double the speed of anything else that we tested today. And then the Hakko FX888D did very well. And the Weller WLC100, my good friend, I do remember, it's so slow. I remember having to go to the workstation and like flipping the soldering iron on and then go downstairs, make a cup of coffee, and then you get back up and the soldering iron's hot. But hey, sometimes it's not all about speed. But there you have it. Now you can see the results of just how fast these things heat up to the point at which you can actually use them. And there you have it, soldering iron showdown. Now, which one really wins? Well, there's no really clear winner here. I think, especially due to price and different features, it really depends on what you're after. Now, in my personal opinion, the LDK, the $9 cheapo, don't buy it. Maybe just buy it and keep it there for a rainy day. Like, all else fails, that's the last thing you have besides just taking a lighter to some solder or a torch to some solder. It's okay, but I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be more frustrating than it's worth. I'd rather see you save up a little bit for that next step up, like the WLC100. Like I said, I used that for many years, and it served me quite well. If you're soldering a smaller wire, you turn the little dial down. If you're soldering a bigger wire, you turn the dial up a little bit. The little gun can do that, but the WLC does have the ability to swap out the guns. So in case you ever bust the pencil, you can do that. In addition, you can plug in an 80 watt and really have some power there. So I wouldn't really recommend the LDK for much. As I said, the WLC 100 is probably the best budget-friendly soldering iron for under 40 bucks. I'd like to see you get that one. I think that's gonna work really well for like hobbies and you know, just basically like hobby use, just kind of occasional hobby use. Now moving up, the Hakko FX888D, I think that's pretty nice. Like for a pretty serious hobbyist out there, or even for business use, it's really nice. I mean, it's got the digital dial, it's got the cleaning wire, it's got the sponge, and not to mention it heated up in under 30 seconds. So that is huge. I have to say, honestly, the best bang for your buck that I've seen so far out of all these four is probably that, the Hakko FX888D. Like, that thing is very impressive. It's got the removable pencil, so if you bust the tip or the gun or anything, you can change that out and buy a new one without having to buy a completely new soldering station. I think that's really nice. Now for the professional use for the Weller WX2, it's impressive. It's on its own level. So should you get it? No, you shouldn't get it. But if you're soldering like I do all day, every day, and like your business kind of relies on it, then yeah, it's a great option. I will say that I'm really not that impressed that I had one of the pencils die on me, the WXP120. It just died. And I had it for, like I said, 9 months or something. So if it hadn't have failed, I would say, yeah, it's the best thing in the world. But because that failed, I'm a little bit questioning it, to be quite honest with you. I wonder if I would have done better maybe getting a few more of the FX by Hakko's. That thing is really nice. But I think the WX2 and the fact that it's got the mega 200 watt pencil is incredible for me. Like I said, soldering big wires, that's huge. And then not to mention I could throw on a heat gun if I wanted to. And lastly, my favorite feature is the auto shut off. I mean, that right there is worth its weight in gold. Like, that has saved many tips. I can definitely say it saved some tips because I haven't left it sitting turned on for 30 minutes or an hour forgetting that it's turned on. So all in all, that's kind of an overview. I'd recommend any of these except for the little cheapo. Just, you know, save up a few more bucks and maybe get the little bit more expensive one. These are only, as I said at the beginning, these are only plug-in models. So whether it's like a battery or a butane operated soldering iron, you might prefer that, but we didn't cover that in these videos. These are just for the plug-in models that you would use at home or on the road with a generator or like an AC outlet in your car or something like that. But that being said, there's a lot of really great choices out there. So, which one do you use? Do you use any of these? Are there any other brands that maybe I should have looked at? Any other models that perhaps I should have done a deeper dive into? I was really impressed with these. These all do great things. They're all great for different use cases. So I hope that you got a little bit of value out of this. I hope it helps perhaps influence your next decision into a soldering iron. So for ease, I have included links to all of these below where you can just buy them from Amazon. If you're Prime, you'll have them in 2 days. That's where I get everything from nowadays. Anyway, so I really think these are great. Can't make a bad choice except for the cheapie. Just don't even mess with it. So thank you so much for watching. If you found this useful, I would really appreciate that little thumbs up if you could hit the like button, the subscribe, the bell, all of those things. I'm actually very active on my other social media channels, from LinkedIn to Instagram and to Facebook. So if you want to take a look for me there, you can. It's either Bobby Watts or Watts Innovations. Let me know in your comments below what you guys think and which gun you use, and I will see you next time. See ya!